Hello, my name is Gerald Lewis. I'm a cardiologist and a general physician, and for 15 years I was cardiologist in charge of the coronary care unit and the cardiac unit at Napier Hospital in New Zealand, and also visited Wairua on a regular basis. And what I'd like to talk about tonight is something that we need to understand, and many people don't, and that's the importance in Maori health of alcohol and nutrition. Most people realize that the New Zealand Maori health is not good. They have a shorter lifespan and they have much more heart disease and cancer than the European or Pākehā. And this graph shows here the statistics. Red is coronary heart disease, cancer is in blue, and as you can see, Maori have almost 3 times as much coronary heart disease and cancer as the Europeans. But it doesn't have to be this way, and it wasn't this way in the past. Now, Maori from Rarotonga are genetically almost the same as the New Zealand Maori. They all started in Taiwan or China, came across to the Cook Islands, some stayed in the Cooks, and then some came down to New Zealand. But genetically, New Zealand Maori are very similar to Cook Island Maori. But Maori in Cook Islands have much less heart disease and much less cancer. Get back to that graph again. That's Maori on the left. Red is coronary heart disease, blue is cancer. Europeans are third. But just look at the incidence of coronary heart disease and cancer in the Cook Island Maori. It's almost non-existent. We visited Cook Islands and talked to the doctors about this. They felt that in Rarotonga, heart disease they thought was a disease of Europeans. Did not occur in the Cook Island Maori. So what's the difference? But pre-European Maori had very little heart disease and very little cancer as well. Rarotonga Maori, as we said, we have very little as well. The question is why, and the answer is there are 2 reasons. One, it's their diet, and number 2, it's the effect of alcohol. If we fix both of these, then New Zealand Maori could have a life expectancy probably equal to or even greater than the Europeans. So let's talk about the diet. The pre-European diet that the Maori had was almost perfect. Food from the lakes, food from the sea, and food from the forest. Fish, birds, nuts, and fruit, ripe fruit, filled with antioxidants, omega-3 oils, and good fats. Rarotonga Maori also eat an incredibly healthy diet. They have plenty of antioxidants and fruit and vegetables. Fruit and vegetables are free. Walk along on the road and you can virtually pick whatever you want to, free of charge. They have plenty of fish, omega-3 oils, which once again the seas around Rarotonga are teeming with fish. And we're beginning to realize just how important vitamin D is. And vitamin D you can mainly get either from supplements or from the sun. And the Rarotonga Maori have a lot more vitamin D. And this protects them from both heart disease and cancer as well. But just changing the diet isn't enough to create good health, because Maori have one other major problem, and that is alcohol. Alcohol is the scourge of many indigenous populations, simply because they've only recently become exposed to alcohol. The New Zealand Maori, the North American Indians, the Australian Aboriginals, all have major problems with alcohol for 2 reasons. One, it is far more addictive to them, and 2, it seems to do a great deal more damage than it does to European. And the reason for this is that Europeans have been drinking alcohol for many generations, probably about 10 centuries at least of Europeans have been drinking alcohol. Maori have only had alcohol for 2 generations. Alcohol is an addictive poison, but it leads to heart disease. And people don't realize quite how much heart disease it does lead to, and we'll talk about this in a minute too. Cirrhosis and liver failure, brain and nerve failure, diabetes and pancreatitis, high blood pressure, depression, anger and violence, and accidents. It is a very, very dangerous and damaging chemical. Now, my speciality is heart disease, and for the next 5 or so minutes, I just want to talk about heart disease in a way that I don't think many people actually realize in New Zealand. Now, the official statistics for Maori heart disease is that coronary heart disease, that's the disease that causes heart attacks due to blockage of coronary arteries, is the major cause of death. And this is the statistic showing coronary artery disease in blue. This is in Maori. Rheumatic fever, rheumatic heart disease in red, and green is high blood pressure and all the others. And as you can see, the majority of Maori are believed to die of cardiac diseases of coronary artery disease. But I don't believe this is so, because this is not my experience when I lived in Napier and worked with the patients in Wairua. I looked at the coronary care units and I looked at the admissions to coronary care, and the Maori were about 10 to 15% of coronary care unit admissions, but the number who had heart attacks were very, very small. Only about 5% actually had heart attacks. We had very few heart attacks. I looked at referrals that was made to my outpatients. Europeans, ischemic heart disease, that's coronary artery disease in blue. The vast majority, heart failure, a few. Maori, it was the reverse. Ischemic heart disease only about 20%. Heart failure was a great deal more. So that's heart failure in Pākehā. That's heart failure in Maori. I found that heart failure was the major problem in my Maori patients. And patients in Wairoa, most visits I received for Wairoa were in fact people with heart failure. Wairoa is a little town just north of Napier on the Hawke's Bay, and this has a very large incidence of Maori people. And when I looked at the outpatients I saw in Wairoa, blue is the patients with heart failure, red is the patients with high blood pressure, green is the patients with other diseases, and ischemic heart disease, coronary artery disease is the purple. Only a tiny number percentage, the vast majority, were complaining of heart failure or had heart failure. That's the number of patients who had ischemic heart disease. Then I discovered a study that was done in 1981, and I repeated it in 1991. We had 400 people who were chosen at random from the census, 300 Europeans and 100 Maori. And then 10 years later, we went back and found all of those patients, all those people, and studied them once again. And in that time, 7% of the Pākehā had died, but almost over 21% of the Maori had died. 21 out of 100 had died. 21% died in those 10 years, whereas only 7% of the Europeans. And the causes of those 21 Maori deaths, according to the statistics: heart attack 11, cancer 4, stroke 2, others 4. Note, no patients were reported to have died of heart failure. Now what I did is I went back and I reviewed the relatives and looked at the medical records of all those 11 people who died of a heart attack. 9 dropped dead suddenly. Almost none had any evidence of any previous chest pains, but almost all of them, their relatives and their doctors said they suffered from breathlessness, and that breathlessness was almost certainly heart failure. None of them had post-mortems, which meant that the doctor, when they saw them, wrote the death certificate because they all died suddenly, and the death certificate simply said they dropped dead from a heart attack. But I believe that they nearly all had heart failure, and in interviewing the relatives, most were caused by excessive alcohol intake. So what's the message? Maori are dying suddenly, and they're dying young, and they're dying in large amounts. But they're not having heart attacks. I believe they have heart failure. What happens is the alcohol poisons the heart, which becomes bigger, doesn't pump as well as it should do, and then it suddenly stops. And sudden death is usually assumed to be due to a heart attack, but heart failure, sudden death, is also the major cause of death in heart failure patients. Almost all of the heart failure in Maori I found was due to either alcohol or rheumatic fever. And the important thing with alcohol is it's never too late to stop drinking. You can always benefit by the heart by stopping. This is a disease which can be cured. So number one, stop drinking to stop the heart and other organs damage, because alcohol does huge damage to Maori in many, many ways. And good nutrition can reverse the damage that's been done to the heart, to the nerves, the pancreas and the liver. And unfortunately, the only way of getting good nutrition these days is not through our food, because our food is poor, and in fact most people can't afford the food. We need to take good nutritional supplements that will help all the body organs to recover from the damage of the alcohol. The cost of doing this is extremely little. The benefits, both physical, social and emotional, are absolutely enormous. And I'm very happy to talk about this and also talk to other people about how we can make Maori health a great deal better, relatively simply, without much in the way of expenditure. Thank you.